Hello, it's Brad Laurie, or Blockchain Brad, and on behalf of BlockFairer, something quite unique today. We are speaking with the CEO of Somnium Space. His name is Artur Sychov, and he's here to explain all things when it comes to VR, blockchain gaming, and exactly what can be done when it comes to revolutionizing the space of gaming, utilizing new technology. Artur, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you for having me. My pleasure.
Absolutely. Now, for all those, as I said before, about respecting the imperative of transparency, this is entirely free. This is all about providing education and information for you as the listener, so you can come to learn more about these new innovations that are hitting the blockchain. Today, once again, the CEO is here to explain everything. So let's get started with it. Artur, you are the CEO. You certainly know more than anyone when it comes to this dreamscape, this new landscape that's virtually based. Can you tell us a bit more about Somnium, what it essentially stands for, and what excites you about this project?
Right. So it comes kind of a long dream, let's say, a long time ago, because I played the games like Ultima Online in 1999 and Second Life later in 2003, 4, and so on. So I always dreamt about those spaces, how not only to look at the monitor, but be inside that space, kind of feel that you are there. And also as a small kid, and then later I've read all those sci-fi books and watched movies, and recently Ready Player One and all other books as well. So the dream was always there, but it kind of was inside me, in the backbone of my head, and I never thought that technology would be quite at the point where we would be able to do things like described in those books, or even further, even more. And then in the early 2015, I got a chance to try an early version of HTC Vive, one of the first virtual reality headsets, which had a full room scale tracking and everything. So I got a demo in a private session, and it just blew my mind. I still remember that day as if it was today.
Wow. And that was only 4 years ago.
Exactly. And it blew my mind from several reasons. One reason was, of course, the resolution and the graphic fidelity was already at an enormously high level. So my brain immediately believed that I was at that space, and I felt all the scale, the colors, and just that world felt so real. But another thing which definitely blew my mind is the room scale. So I was able to walk inside quite a big room and walk inside that space. And I definitely remember the moment where I was in the headset, and then the person who was giving me a demo took the controllers from my arms and was hanging me those controllers. And I saw those controllers, but I didn't see the person, of course. I saw the controllers flying to me inside VR space. And he was like, "Oh, just grab them." And I was like, "Grab how?" Like in virtual space. And I just grabbed the controllers, and I felt them in real life. And that was the moment for me when it clicked to me. And just honestly, with that moment, 10 years of of the future life just came into my mind, and I saw all those worlds and how people will be using VR, and how it will be more and more profound, and how it will affect all our lives. And so right after the demo, I started thinking what can we do with this technology, because there are so many possibilities. And obviously I started to kind of search online, because I bought the HTC then later when it came out, and I started to search online, what kind of worlds do we have? What kind of VR worlds can we actually live today? Because I assume that, of course, there will be many, right? If the technology is so great already. And I found there was none, or the ones which were trying kind of to emerge were far, far away from the dream space I had in mind, and from what we always were described in the books and in the movies. So I kind of started thinking, like, what could I do, and how would I do it if I would be doing it? Like, how would I make the world, and what could I actually do inside that world, and how it would be, super cool, and all those possibilities which would open to people. And I intentionally, I didn't want to create the world, but I was thinking about it so much that at some point I was not able to actually go to sleep properly. So at that moment, I had just sit down next to my computer and I started to kind of drop the presentation and kind of all my thoughts into one presentation, kind of to put all the things and blocks what I believe would be in the virtual world and has to be in the virtual world. And that was the starting of the idea. And, I always was an entrepreneurial person. I'm an investment banker by my studies. And I worked as an investment trader and an energy trader. And, I traded stocks and options and many different products. And I taking a risk, a calculated risk, was always in my DNA.
Right,
So
and it's great to hear also. I'm just going to jump in because I think you're like me, we could talk forever. But with regard to the entrepreneurial savvy as well, Artur, that's absolutely fundamental for a CEO to have. And it's great to hear that you had that light bulb moment. You had that moment when you really experienced the tech firsthand. And then from there, you really built this from scratch, and obviously we can talk about the team and how that's led into what is now Somnium. But quite literally, given the name of Somnium itself, referring to the dream, you're making this dream a virtual reality. So, kudos to you for literally doing more than just thinking about it. Let's explore exactly what you've done though. Now, right, the explanations on your website and all of the different resources are that it's a Somnium virtual world and it's here to stay. But essentially, there's integrations of blockchain. Very clearly on the website, Ethereum is stated as that which powers the ecosystem, and obviously Loom is fundamental for the scaling solution. Can you talk to us a bit more about the integration, the connection between this virtual world and blockchain?
Right. So I have to go a little bit back before I we'll go to the blockchain, because we started as the VR first company, and we are still a virtual reality first company. And when I speak at events and conferences, I always say there are three main things which we have to build to make our virtual world exist for the next 100, maybe 200 years, hopefully, or maybe for eternity. We don't know, but those blocks are, it has to look great. It has to really trick your brain that you believe that you are inside that world. So visuals are, and not only visuals, but also sound, spatial sound, and graphic fidelity, and randomly generated things, and just the whole environment has to be believable, because when your brain is tricked and when you believe that you're there, the whole thing, it's a game-changing technology. So that's the first thing. And the second thing, of course, is it has to be, persistent, and everybody should be in the same place. So whenever you want to meet someone, it's always in the same servers. It's it's a very intense server development we do, and things like that. And the third thing, which is I think one of the most important things for the long-term run of the whole ecosystem, is economy. So people have to be able to earn money. So we have to build a platform which enables people to earn money and to, in the long run, to own things in reality. So, of course, we were faced with two different approaches how we could make it. One approach is centralized. So we could have done it in the way of Second Life, for example, which still has the turnover of 500 million roundabout dollars, even though you'd never maybe heard of it.
So $500 million for Second Life, and I think many people actually have heard of it, to be honest. But as you said, they are a centralized company. So that's why I really wanted to talk about the distinction between you. Not only are you very much focused on virtual worlds, and virtual technology, but you also, by design, are decentralized.
Exactly. So, we were thinking a lot about, how we would make the economy work in Somnium. And again, with our, with my background in investment banking, our chief operating officer he's also, a trader and has economical background. So we were debating and thinking a lot, how can we do it right? And how can we do it that it works the long term? And, many people threw at us things like in 2017, when we were already developing the world and making, also kind of talking to investors, to real investors and like VC funds and stuff. many people were throwing at us like ideas that we should do an ICO and we should do, but we didn't see the 2017 still. We also saw, the hype of ICOs and a lot of scams. And on the other hand, we didn't see quite a technology, the mature technology we needed. And, the time has passed and we were still, kind of preparing the economy and debating, and we were leaning towards decentralized solution because obviously that's a solution which can bring you long-term vision and long-term kind of existence of the economy. Mm-hmm. And then we kind of, slowly dived into the, 721s, ERC 721s, Ethereum. We saw kind of different solutions emerging and, Loom and other things, and OpenSea, for example. And, at that point, we were kind of confident that, okay, the technology is already there. We can actually make something connecting our world to that technology and allowing people to actually own things and trade things freely and independently from us, right? So we don't want to control the whole ecosystem. It sounds great, and it is great for the company in terms of from the financial perspective. But again, if you think long term, if you think more than 20 years ahead, I think decentralized is the only way to go. So that's why we kind of started to.
Sure, I just wanted to jump in there and say that this is the very reason why we're having this conversation, and to be honest, is the fact that you chose that decentralized route. And for many listening as well, that is one of the core draw cards, or one of the key draw cards of the many assets that you bring to the table with regard to not just blockchain, but all the features that we're going to be discussing today. And also we'll go more into the NFTs, as you mentioned, with the 721. So we can really explore why they are so integral to the assets, again, that you offer. But I want to bring it back again to the economy. Now, just to put it into some perspective, to establish your own economy, to establish your own marketplace, to establish a complete and robust platform, that's a big ask. That's quite ambitious as well. Do you really grasp yet, Artur, just how big this could actually be?
I mean, I get this question quite a lot of times, especially when I speak on conferences and people come to me and they say, "Oh my God, this they do different comparisons of me with other founders of other famous companies." And I hope it will be, but we are so focused on things to do right now. What is the next step? What could be the next step to to allow our users to do this and that and to really bring this to life, that maybe the far distant whatever success or whatever that it could be called, it's not in our it's not our focus number one. We want to make this a reality, and we're doing step by step. We understand that there's a lot of steps which takes to to go wherever we want to go, and we try to focus one step at a time. We do this, we roll out the next feature, we expand to that and this. So yes, I believe and I hope it can be and should be big, because it's an amazing technology. But right now we have to focus on what we have to focus.
I see. Well, obviously, and we'll talk about some of the competitors later, but Barry Silbert, who's an evangelist for many different startups in the space, he's a big fan of Decentraland, and he even was quoted saying that he sees their version of the new Second Life, that is the blockchain-based ideas of a new ecosystem, as akin to Google. Now, if he's saying that, I'm also going to sort of replicate that and push that on, towards you and say, well, look, possibly we're talking about something that has the scope and potential of something of that magnitude. I mean, we're talking about a complete and very holistic platform for people to literally not just interact, but create through the NFTs their own businesses, their own ecosystem, build upon their own land. That literally the potential of this is immense, and it makes sense you're working in steps, but it's really just to push forward the idea that this is such a big thing. The gravity of this is quite substantial.
It is. And I mean, I would say, I hear a lot of comparisons, and people try to compare. I think the only thing which is in common between, for example, us and Decentraland is that they use blockchain too, but there the whole similarities are ending, just because we run in virtual reality, which we believe is the revolutionary technology. Because, as I said, we had computers and mouses and monitors. then we got mobile phones and touch screens, and it went one step further. And right now we are at the moment where the new technology emerges, which is AR and VR. And VR is the only technology in the world right now, and I'd say it will stay like this for many, many years to come, which can actually transform and make your brain believe that you are somewhere else. Now, what that means for people is that whenever they experience in that virtual reality, it actually, is believable for them. So it means that if you own an object in VR, if you talk to someone in VR, it makes a higher value to you, because you actually believe that that's the object which you own, that's the person which you talk to. Right. Now, in terms of Decentraland or other platforms where it's non-VR, it's just running around with the mouse and keyboard. It's kind of replicating the 1999 thing again in 2019 in this style. And I mean, I can tell my opinion about Decentraland maybe later.
Well, later on, but
or maybe even here. But it's a big difference in what we are trying to do and what we are building, and what people actually experience inside SomniumSpace already today, in comparison to some other platforms.
Absolutely, and quite sincerely, bringing that affective factor in, allowing the emotions to really take over, because not only do you get to interact with the objects, but you become that subject. And you can interact with other subjects in that environment. So all your senses are heightened by this. And that's no doubt what really inspired you when you experienced this firsthand, because this virtual aspect is really also something that excites me, knowing that you're the world leader in this space to do this. Now, with regard to some of the context, we mentioned Decentraland. I want to talk a bit more just quickly on Second Life, only because it was so successful for its time. Now, in that context, you also, as I understand, know the CEO of Second Life. Are you confident that not only you can build on that knowledge and that base, but also expand that to the new standards of essentially new gaming possibilities, new blockchain possibilities when it comes to utilizing the technology in sync with gaming?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we always do things. First, we think about things, and we really fundamentally weigh all the options before jumping on some train. And we are against hype. We're about real use cases. So a long time before we started to incorporate blockchain in Somnium, we actually, since you mentioned Philip Rosedale, who is the founder of Second Life, and he is right now the founder and CEO of another VR company called High Fidelity. Mm-hmm. They're right now focusing more on the enterprise solutions, so kind of having meetings in VR and having virtual meetings and or virtual offices. But we talked a lot, and we teamed up with them and also Janus VR, and we created so-called Virtual Reality Blockchain Alliance. And the purpose of that alliance was, of course, to first of all come together, and we still do. Every month we meet in VR and we discuss, all the latest and greatest in blockchain and VR, and we also discuss next steps and what virtual reality should do to make the interoperability between the worlds happening. So we were already discussing blockchain and use cases for VR a long time ago, and we're founding company with this alliance. And Philip is a great person, and he's an amazing visionary, and he was my hero because I played Second Life myself. Right. Very emotional moment for me when I met him in real life first time. I remember showing him in Amsterdam Somnium Space in our booth on VR days, and he's giving some comments, and he actually liked what he saw. And then we're meeting with him in VR, amazing experience. And now we're meeting on a monthly basis, and those things, all those bits and pieces are playing into what we're actually doing today and why we're doing it today. It's not a decision which we made like this. It's a decision which we thought through for maybe a year and a half, and that's kind of how we approach those things.
And it's quite remarkable, given that, as you mentioned, he established a $500 million company with Second Life, and now he's working as that advisory support for you, in a sense, because once again he does, and he's already articulated to you that he does like what he sees when it comes to your startup, and that must be really exciting also, given that he's been so successful in the gaming space already. Now, with regard to the in-game mechanics, as you call them, there's so many different features to what you offer. The first is the cross-platform. We could probably start there and go down the list because they're all so important. You're bringing, this potential of cross-game potential to this technology. What does it mean, though? Given that it's not just simply about Somnium for the future.
I mean, it means simply that any person with almost any device on the planet will be able to be part of Somnium Space. And now I'm talking about more or less VR devices. So we have, all the spectrum of devices from the highest end devices on the market, which you can, jump into Somnium on with your PC, with your high-end spec PC, and then just jump into the VR and have an amazing experience. And then all the way down to the most affordable ones like Oculus Go or even Gear VR, with the Samsung phone. So all that spectrum, we already incorporated biggest part of that, and we are finalizing and releasing with the next few months the mobile versions of that. So anyone with the budgets from $150 to $2,500 will be able to enjoy Somnium equally and in a well-designed manner. So that's kind of making a free choice for people and liberating a little bit the experience is the very important point for Somnium to become kind of the global part.
And that's a game changer as well, Artur, because being able to have your own headset or being able to have your own technology at the cost of $150 as a starting point, that's reasonably accessible for many regions in the world, certainly not all, but in the context of prices for Xboxes, say, for example, or other gaming devices, it's certainly within that range. And also, up until this point, it's quite expensive to go to those places where you can have that full experience where you're surrounded by the whole world. I mean, that can cost hundreds of dollars for a one-off. So you're allowing people to really engage in a way they've never been able to do. Now, you have a few different features. One of them is very interesting in terms of the avatar, because you have a live forever feature option for those people. I really wanted to find out more about that. How does that work?
It's a very interesting concept which we brought, and I love to speak about it on the conferences because it sparks two types of reactions. There are people who literally laugh at it, and there are people who are literally amazed by it, and there is nothing in between.
Right.
So literally, what is Live Forever Mode? Is the feature which will allow people who own land in our world on their own parcel. They can pay us and then can click the button and we start recording everything you do in VR, meaning not only what you say, but also how you move, all your movements. And because movements in VR are very realistic, they're basically copying your movements in real life. So everything you do, we record and then we apply AI on it, and you can spawn your second you as the avatar. And the whole point of it is, what if something happens with you, and we're all people, we're all, humans, we live, we die, unfortunately, but that's the truth. What if something happens to you and you can have the second version of you somewhere in VR, maybe that your kids can visit or kids of your kids can visit and talk to you, because AI is progressing so tremendously fast that if we have enough data points about you, we can actually recreate it pretty accurately. And I'm pretty sure that, within the next 10 years, this leap would be even more dramatic. So,
wow.
Within 15 years, you will actually not be able to recognize whether this is the real you or this is just an avatar. And that was this feature was sparked by my own experience with our, death of some very close person and in the family. So, I thought, how can we actually preserve ourselves inside virtual worlds? Because that's a use case right there, right? That's something which I would use, and we have already paying customers for that. So people already bought packages.
Honestly, the social implications for that alone are, I would argue, immense, because there's nothing quite like having that ability to reflect, and connect with those that you love. And as you mentioned, if people have passed, this is a way, to retain some sort of connection with them via the virtual world, especially if they've already engaged in this space previously through the system you've created. It's a way to create that eternal version of them. I mean, it's incredibly powerful. Have you seen anything like this before? Was this something that you came up with?
Yes, I have never seen something like that. I never stumbled upon anything like that. I mean, there are some attempts for someone to like read words, and then kind of like in university, someone did some reading and then recreating the voice or some kind of part of the voice. But I've never seen any company trying to do what we try to do in terms of, taking you as a whole person with all the movements and every data point and then just recreate it. Because many companies are actually scared about that. They say, oh my God, people won't give you all the data. And we say, look, we collect this data because you pay us to do so. So we don't earn money on selling the data further. We earn money because you pay us for that feature. So that's kind of, but other than that, no, I never.
So it's a specialized service. And obviously there's a cohort of people out there that may not have been initially interested in what is a very exciting gaming platform, but also because of this feature, you may be drawing in another group of people because of this live forever, eternal sort of aspect to the avatar. So congratulations for thinking about it and for building that in. That's a really powerful feature, I would think. Now, with regard to some of the other things, I want to talk to you about the land and sort of really go there with the land plan that you have and the thing that you've been building, and distinguishing that between the currency as well, so people really understand what's happening with regard to land ownership.
So, we have a world, we have built a fundamental beginning of the world where, we have an environment, a vast, huge environment where our virtual world is. And, we truly believe, and I believe from the day one, because of Ultima Online experience, I saw it in 1999, people were paying thousands of dollars in Ultima Online to own their own house, and I wanted to own my own house where I put my things, where I always can come back and just reflect and relax and play with my friends. In 1999, it was a 2D experience only with the chat. Fast forward to 2019, you come to your house in VR. You have your TV, you have your friends, you can watch a movie together, you feel like you're in your house, and you can speak to people in fully 360 audio, so you can have parties and things like that. So virtual ownership of any kind is the big prospect of VR. I want to own things in VR, and I know that others want to own things in VR too. So for us, there are two things. So virtual ownership and, of course, ability to create. So we know that people want to build and create, and we want to give them space where they can build. And that space, which is there forever, they can buy that space inside our vast world and own it and do with that space basically whatever they want to do, right? So that's that's where the two things.
So it's no different to really owning a plot of land in the real world, in the sense that there's only so much land in the real world, and this would apply, I imagine, to a finite resource that is the land in Somnium, in the Somnium space.
Right. That's an important question, because we got a lot of questions like, why would there will be a finite land in virtual space? Because you can spawn as much land as you want. Why would you limit it? Isn't it artificial limiting? Actually, it's not. The reason for that is our world is quite different from anything else right on the market, because how other companies are doing it is they divide people into sub-servers, and you have like 32, maybe 40 people in one sub-server, and once the limit is reached, they spawn the mirror of the same server. The only problem is people don't see each other between those mirrors, so they cannot interact with each other. So it's a very fragmented experience, and we do it completely different ways. So we have one world, and everyone at all the time, in every single moment of time, are in the same world all together. So we are writing our own server technology for that, which we call a honeycomb, but we can talk about this for hours. But this is own server technology, and we can hold and host, due to the performance reasons on the devices and virtually, we can hold up to a certain amount of people and up to a certain amount of land parcels to still allow people to explore this vast world and to actually have a good performance on the devices. And we're already reaching kind of like a physical limit where the processors are getting faster, the internet is getting faster, but still having unlimited virtual land is just impossible. And I don't think this will be solved in the next 20 years, because there are some limits, physical limits, which of the broadband and everything else, which just not allow us to do so. So that's why there is a finite solution for that. And yes, it will grow in the future, but it will not grow in a dramatic way. It will not devalue the land you own already today. It rather will, complement it and make the world even more interesting. So that's kind of the answer.
And that's really important, obviously, with our knowledge of Bitcoin, for example, with the finite resource that essentially has been created through its metric design. This fits quite well with that, because in having that finite supply of land, and as you mentioned, in the times, you'll have it compartmentalized, will be other regions, but not disaffect or reduce the value of the current model that you have for the land plots and the parcels. That's all very important, because it gives people a bit of certainty of their purchases. Now, with regard to the purchases as well, Artur, what's the process, or what has been the process to engage in the land buying? You're doing some sort of ILO, is that right?
Right. So we actually started in a very interesting manner. So we first, some time ago, we ran over a year ago already. We ran a crowd invest campaign. So people were actually able to buy real shares of our company. And they did. So we raised $130,000 in that campaigin.
Lucky them.
What we did, yeah, thanks.
Because
and
that's
what we actually, they actually feel lucky right now. But what we did is we said, you know what, to shares, if you buy a certain amount of shares, you actually get a land inside Somnium as a free bonus, because we thank you for our early support. And what we quickly found out is that many people were coming and they were buying shares just to get the land. And in the beginning, they didn't care about the shares, which is fantastic, of course, in terms of realizing like how they perceive this. But then, of course, they realized that they actually get real shares. So they were kind of getting shares, and a lot of people, because of the regulatory, we are UK-based company, so regulatory reasons, we were not able to sell shares to US people, but they were asking us, what about the land? I want to have land, but I cannot buy shares. Please help. So right after that campaign, maybe a few months later, we decided that we will give a chance to everyone else to buy land. So we kind of ran an early Indiegogo campaign where we raised $67,000 just by selling land to people. So yeah, we have already a batch of backers who pre-own the land, and we ran an amazing event of them actually going into the world and reserving those land parcels.
Wow.
So if you go to our YouTube and you say you type Somnium Space land reservation, you will see the time lapse of how the land in the city center was kind of like taken away by people.
It's a bit like when you see those real estate, regions that are being built out, in those suburbs, and then you see all the little graphic of all the ones that are taken. It's a bit like that. So
exactly.
So you've already done the Indiegogo approach, as you explained, and you've had some raised. Now you've got more to come, though. There's still an option for people to get involved in the future, and that includes me. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be looking at this. I might as well just say that, because if you're doing this ILO, this initial land offering, I'm supposing that's what it stands for, this gives people a chance to do it in a very fair way. So how is it fair, and when is this happening?
Right. So the ILO is the next logical step. Because of the blockchain corporation, we tokenized all our land parcels, and there are 5,000 land parcels on our map, which is right now 6 square kilometers. It's a pretty huge map, pretty huge world. And 500 of those is already taken by our early backers. And another 4,500 will be auctioned off on a tokenized basis on OpenSea, in a partnership with OpenSea. And everyone in the world will be able to come on OpenSea or on our website.
So it's like
a parcel.
It's like an eBay style, in the sense you're using OpenSea.
Exactly.
And you've got a period of time, I'd imagine.
Exactly. It starts at 6th of October, and from 6th of October till 13th of October, there's 1 week period where people will be bidding for all those parcels at the same time. They'll be bidding their price. And of course, on the 13th of October, when the auction is finished, the highest bidder for every parcel will be awarded that token, and automatically that token will appear in his wallet.
I can just imagine that very last day, Artur, just like we see with it's going to be stressful for us all, because for those who want to engage and be able to purchase some land, it's going to be, I think,
for us as well.
Yeah, and it's going to be a really exciting thing to see, because I haven't seen anything like this before, certainly in the work I do. But how's the feedback been with the proposal as you put that forth to the many different platforms with your community? because you've got a strong one. Did they like the idea of the ILO?
They do. What they like the most is, the decoupling and the decentralization and the real ownership of what they own. So having, real land ownership, that's what excites everyone in our community, whether they know blockchain or they don't know blockchain. They just know that if they can own something for real, and they can, they'll be able to trade it freely without us being involved in that and us controlling the whole mechanism. That's what excites everyone. I mean, I spoke on the Futureport conference in Prague. It was a pretty huge conference, and a lot of mainstream people who doesn't know about blockchain. They heard about blockchain, but they don't know particularly what it is. They just came to me after my presentation where I explained how virtual world and blockchain can work together. And they just, told me this is the first time ever I've heard someone actually explain the blockchain, which made sense to me. So now I finally understand why blockchain matters in like gaming or any other aspect. And that is very important, right? So our community is very excited and hyped about that.
Absolutely. Sure. Well, Artur, let's go into this because you do explain it so much better than even I do with regard to the NFTs and the digital assets that people can not only, engage with, but literally create, and also create incomes for themselves through the economy you're building. So let's talk about that and what you envision or envisage for the future for all the participants of Somnium.
Right. So right from the very beginning, you buy land, we give you tools to start building on that land right away. And we give, wide variety of tools, whether you are, and you're a programmer and you know how to work with Unity. We have Unity SDK for you. So you can just, take your scene, build the house inside Unity, import objects and just upload it directly to your parcel through the Unity, through our SDK. So that's one part.
Just to clarify for those who don't know, so the SDK is the software development kit, and that's already provided as a tool suite from Somnium's team that you can use. Okay, got it.
Yes. So that's the Unity SDK. And then the other part, which is I found even more exciting because it's a visual builder. It's a builder in our PC client. I mean, if you played Sims, for example, where you build those houses, if you knew how to play that, you'd be able to build an amazing things inside Somnium, because this is the very advanced builder, which allows you to do many advanced things like, importing the objects, changing textures, colors of the lights, videos, sounds, images, blockchain items, and things like this. You can directly jump into a builder and start building on your land right away without knowing any line of codes and writing any line of codes. And that's a very powerful tool. And, by one click of a button, you upload it to your parcel. Since you build in real time and you can see what you're building, you can just go inside VR and enjoy that with your friends or with anyone else who's walking by your parcel, your street at that moment of time. So that's an amazing tool. And going to the economy, so when you can start building, you can start monetizing, you can start creating experiences like a roller coaster and start selling tickets to the roller coaster, or you can import avatar, and if that avatar is great and other people want to buy that avatar, you can, from our client, you'll be able very soon to just upload the avatar through SDK, take that avatar and place it on the blockchain and sell it on the free market by yourself. You determine the price, you determine how many of those avatars will be available. And once someone buys that avatar, when he owns this token on his wallet, in the blockchain wallet, our system recognizes that and gives you the rights to use that avatar. So until you own that token, you are the user and the owner of that avatar. If you trade the token to someone else, that person becomes the owner and you lose this privilege. So that's kind of how the system works. And you can imagine that you can apply this to houses, land parcels, avatars, wearables, so sunglasses, t-shirts, whatever you can create because you're a creator. Cars, planes, and any object inside Somnium, that becomes the economy and that becomes the true ownership. One of the biggest, I think, use cases in the near future, which hopefully very soon, I think tomorrow we are actually making a press release. We're teaming up with a website who is creating digital art on the blockchain. Right. So you can own an image or an art piece inside VR, and what makes spectacular use case is that you don't look at it on the monitor, which is, to be honest, not the ideal way how to consume art. But you can go in VR and actually look at it in a full 360 space. You can come closer, see the details, and you can actually show it to other people. So you can run a gallery, for example.
Just as we would in the real world.
Those kind of things. Exactly. So that's kind of how we see economy emerging, and then we try to spark creativity inside in people, right? We give them the tools, and they just use those tools for whatever. When people ask me, how do you think Somnium will look like in a year? And I say, the beauty of it, I don't know, because people will build whatever they want.
It's going to move very fast. It really is going to move fast once, because you've had the infrastructure there already, you've spent a few years on this. But I want to bring it back to the NFT to really crystallize this for the audience, because having this non-fungible token means that people can essentially own an asset. They can trade that asset in the marketplace, and it gives them that autonomy. Because you chose that decentralized route, it literally changes everything when it comes to giving them rights to that asset. Can you talk to us about just how powerful that is in the context of you having a currency for your world?
Right. So maybe we can start from the beginning. Like, there is a centralized and decentralized approach. And centralized approach, like it is in any game, in any experience today, that company owns all the, all the tokens. And if you get banned, for example, from that, for whatever reason you get banned, or you are not able to log in anymore to that environment, you lose everything you possess. So whatever, for years you were collecting swords and potions and money and everything, and just lose it. In our case, it's all on the blockchain, decentralized from us. So even if you lose the access to actual world, you can still go and sell everything you own at the market price and the real price to people and let them use that. So that's one important aspect. Just take it. I
think you're going to make a lot of parents very happy because, knowing that if they're the ones, funding this venture, and I have children, so I've certainly done that. And as you mentioned, I have always, had an issue with that centralized party because my children have stopped using some of those games and then the money just went to nowhere. So you're literally changing everything and creating a real economy. It might be virtual, but it's still real in the sense that money is involved.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, and in terms of ownership, as I said, when you own that asset, and when you can actually prove on the blockchain, and inside VR, you can click on it and you can see that it's, for example, one-of-a-kind painting or one-of-a-kind avatar, and it's a certified one-of-a-kind avatar because there is a proof of origin. That changes a lot, right? That changes. We all seen things like, 2D images of some CryptoKitties going for insane prices. We've all seen some other items going for insane prices. But again, when you take that and you can see and use this thing in VR, and we actually made a video showcasing how you can transform the CryptoKitty inside our world and make it a real cat, walking next to you, and you can actually play with this cat. That changes a lot. That changes the whole perspective of how you think about those items right there.
So profound.
And once you experience that, you cannot go back. Once you see that, you cannot go back to the 2D experience at all ever. So
and what's remarkable, I have to give you credit for this as well, Artur, is that one thing in the pre-chats you've taught me is that you don't need to have that deep dev knowledge. You don't need to have a great deal of understanding of all of the fundamentals of the SDK, for example. You just need to know how to use them, because that is a big boon for you as well. For many people in the world who want to interact but may not have the skill sets, you've made it possible for them to create, and not just create, but connect that with this economy you're building, so that essentially those first movers in this space are going to really be advantaged, I would think, because they can be the ones who are literally building from the land up. They're the ones that can start to create and have that a say in the construction of this world we call Somnium Space.
Yeah, they can affect how the world will look like. They can affect how people will perceive that world. Because again, once the gin is out of the bottle, there is literally no way to stop it, and there is no way back. And whatever you build, because there are many kind of like districts and many land parcels and parts of the map and parts of the world. When you start building something and your neighbors see that you're building something, you affect how they build. And we cannot wait to see how it will play out between the neighbors and how people will move in different districts. Maybe it will be in our district and other districts. So, it's a very exciting thing to watch.
Well, you certainly started building it out already. I mean, you've mentioned before in your talks that you built bowling alleys and planetariums and, places people can engage socially. But I wanted to ask you a tough question. based on a knowledge of Bitcoin, for example, and other cryptocurrencies. There's been a propensity in the last few years for what we call hodling. For those who espouse the store of value in something. Now, land is akin to that in some respects because it has value. It's a finite resource in Somnium. What's to stop someone to just buy and hold the land and do nothing? That wouldn't be good necessarily for the ecosystem. So how are you going to redress those who are just simply doing land grabs?
So there are two approaches how we can, and how we think it will play out. First of all, our community is quite different from what you see in other blockchain-based communities out there. So we have actual creators, we have actual community members who are active and who want to live in that world rather than just grab the value and sell it further. So I can guarantee you all those people who bought the land on Indiegogo and on Seeding VR 1 year ago, they will not be selling that land in the auction. I know it because I know personally every community member. We talk to each other, we meet on the bowling in VR, we meet in the concerts, we hang around inside VR. So I know them personally very well. I do open mic night every Saturday inside our amphitheater in VR, so we talk a lot. But another thing is, if you realize that even if you're a speculator, if you want to speculate on the price, you should realize that the land which has no building on it is less interesting and has a lower value than a land which thrives with activity. So it's in your best interest to start building something and to attract people to that land so that the value of that land, even if you want to sell it later, goes up. Right. So if you buy 10 pieces of land and they're all empty, I can guarantee you nobody will come there, because why would they? So they would rather come somewhere else and have another experiences. And the whole notion of trading will go further from you, and you in the long run, you will just lose the value of that land. And again, of course, if we see something like that happening, there are some mechanisms which we might implement in the future. For example, whenever you buy the land, we provide 0 tax free. So if you own the land parcel, you should not pay anything else on top, never. So that's your land forever. That's
wow, that would be a dream. In the real world, that would be a dream.
That would be a dream, and that's what we try to do. But what we can do is that if you don't build something on the land and if you hold it for a long time, we can implement kind of a negative tax on you. So we say, look, if you don't build anything, if it's a complete empty land, and we see that you are not active at all, we might start implementing some tax to kind of incentivize you to build experiences.
That's very smart.
Maybe why not to rent it out to someone else who can build and actually will bring the value of your land up while you are not doing anything with it, because we will implement the renting mechanism where you can just rent the land easily and that's it. So I think market will, giving our community, because our community is, whatever you attract comes to you. So we try to attract really, creators, dreamers, and people who actually really believe in the vision. So given the community plus the fundamental thing of, if you don't build on the land, it has lower value, will actually solve that problem. But let's see. Hey, we don't know how it will turn out because it's a public auction. So, well,
the public auction is going to be really exciting. I can't wait to see that unfold, quite sincerely. And that is, once again, from the 6th to the 13th of October next month. Now, with regard to the currency, I want to talk about that for a moment, because, for you to have this continuation of a successful ecosystem and enable people to transact, have you finalized all of the metrics, all of the different aspects of the currency that represents the ecosystem? And if you have, is it published and available for people to explore?
We are finalizing it as of now. And the reason for that is our currency is, our land is the kind of the main part and main spotlight of all of that, because land allows you to start trading right away. But what is very important, and why we bring currency and why we actually will allow people to buy currency, is for the use case. So now, once you start trading, you can trade on the OpenSea platform, or you can trade some items there, but also you can trade inside VR. So imagine you're in virtual reality, you come to someone, you see great image in the gallery, and that image is for sale. You click on that image, you buy it right away, it appears in your inventory, and the token is being transferred from your wallet to another wallet automatically, and you pay in Somnium Cubes. So that's why we introduced the currency. So the pure reason for us to introduce the currency is not to raise money, because we raised already from investors. It's more to actually give people a chance to participate in the economy, to actually utilize that currency inside the game and to be able to make transactions.
And that's exactly why I wanted to talk to you about this, because it's quite unique in that it's clear that this is a medium of account. This is a unit of account, a medium of exchange, and potentially, depending on the metrics, a store of value. But more importantly, it is fundamentally a medium of exchange. First and foremost, it's designed to be something that allows people to interact just as they would with monetary systems in the real world.
Correct.
That's powerful.
That's the use case. As I said, we are not about the hypes, we are about the actual use cases. So everything you see design in our world is designed from ground up, from the use case, and then coming to the other parts of that. But use case is the most important aspect of that. Now,
moving to blockchain for a moment, to secure your network, to make sure you've also got scalability built in, that's really important. So the questions are you agnostic by design, and are you working with agnostic partners? My understanding is Loom, for example, is, because they can essentially work with any layer 1 blockchain party. Right now they work with Ethereum. So what's the experience been like with Ethereum to Loom and then across to Somnium as that sort of triad of partnership to support scalability of your venture?
Exactly. So, I mean, that's a great question, because when we decided to go with the blockchain, when we decided to incorporate and decentralize our economy, the first kind of question was, how do we do it right? Because we have to make it right from the beginning. We have to make sure that what we're doing has a long-lasting effect in the future. And right out of the way, we just saw two companies which we recognize as leaders in that kind of ecosystem, and that is OpenSea, which are creating, in my opinion, the best marketplace in the world for non-fungible tokens and for crypto items.
And that's a decentralized marketplace, isn't it, for OpenSea?
Exactly. It's kind of like, you can imagine it's an eBay for blockchain items. So whatever you own, you can just trade it there. Okay. And then on the other hand, on the other spectrum is Loom, who are not only amazing team and created a very powerful token, which is ERC-721X, but also they provide a second layer solution where exactly as our solution will be scaling inside the game, we'll need a lot of transactions, but would not rather need to kind of pay and kind of experience the slow pace or slower pace of Ethereum in the first place. So that's where we would use their solution to scale and allow users to exchange the items and exchange currency inside our world, be it secure still and be it on the blockchain still. So that's kind of, we recognize those two partners. We reached out to them, we kind of talked, and then we decided to partner officially, and that's where we brought expertise from both sides, and we made sure that what we do actually makes sense and what we do is right. And yeah, we think we nailed it pretty well.
Right. And what's interesting also is you've aligned with Ethereum, when we go back into the history from Loom down to Ethereum, and that is also recognized not only, for example, through the SEC and FCFTC as commodity/currency. We're not really sure exactly, but certainly it's recognized as valid, and that's important. And then also with regard to being decentralized, I think that's important as well. So all the parties you're working with all sort of resonate with the same agenda. But I wanted to ask you one thing that comes to mind as we start to really grapple with the magnitude of this. Surely parties like businesses, governments even, or enterprises, there's going to be a whole plethora of interests, I would imagine, come in. But have you already started to see some interest from real mainstream parties that want to replicate their own business models in this virtual ecosystem, if you know what I mean?
Absolutely. And the reason why I know is because, yes, we do. So what is happening is some companies and also universities, for example, are already buying or planning to buy, already bought on Indiegogo land. They're very forward-looking universities who actually did it on Indiegogo. There are a few. And they're planning to build schools and, rooms or even the whole school inside VR. And one one of the examples is they want to, ship to some distant locations in the world. Oculus Goes, the $150 devices to many children, let them come to that school and teach them there. And there are many examples how VR can actually revolutionize few aspects of our lives. So
wow.
Yes, that's happening, and companies will definitely see more and more use case of that, because once more and more people visit the land, once more and more people kind of interact with objects. Like, for example, when we were introducing Somnium, we showcased and we bought the real Tesla Model 3 inside VR. So, people can go inside VR, go to the Tesla store and just look at the car in full scale, realize how it looks like, play with it a little bit, walk around it, and then just buy it there, reserve it there right away. So this kind of things will emerge more and more, and companies like Amazon and others, and they definitely look at it, they will realize that people they don't want to consume anymore just by looking at pictures. They want to go to the store and buy things and try it physically, but running physical stores, it's a pretty expensive solution. And again, you are very limited to the location where the store is. In VR, there's no limitation. People from Australia can go and check the store and buy the Amazon Echo, for example, from the. So that's kind of, it's absolutely clear. And Second Life already showed that model, even in 2D, even in the old style graphics. Second Life already showed that companies paid millions of dollars for land parcels to build their own headquarters and to kind of have meetings there. So yeah.
Right, and that's exactly why I wanted to ask you this. It was a perfect segue mentioning Second Life, because I wanted to ask how you're going to balance the commercialization potential and the opportunity for people in the retail sector. Because if the genie gets out of the bottle for that commercial value, because of the money that they have, they surely can go and buy those and bid at the higher prices. So how are you going to make sure there's reserves for the people?
You can, you're answering your own question. So I'm a big believer in a kind of a market equilibrium. So imagine the scenario where Amazon goes and buys the whole district and makes it a big shop, and maybe whatever there is, all the shops all the way. Do you think people will be going there all the time with, to look at the flashy banners? Of course they won't. They want to have a balanced experience. They want to have somewhere where they can meet real people. They can actually have good experiences, and not necessarily, something flashing into their eyes and having. So if this will be happening, this district will be losing traffic of people and nobody will be walking there. Obviously, Amazon will have to either, sell it and just go away, or make it in a way that it's an amazing experience for people that they really want to go through, and kind of, allowing not only sell them something, but also give them some value. So I believe that the market and people will actually rule this balance, and it will not be over commercialized. That's what I'm 100% sure.
It's a great answer, because obviously in the real world, when we look at the precincts, for example, like Google, they've had to innovate. They've had to add slides in and make the region fun, just, simply because the employees demand a little bit more interaction in that space. So you are right, I think, is that the people will decide, the people will dictate this. Now, with regard to the stages of development, you mentioned before that you started some years ago. How do you describe the position you're at now in that continuum? And what do you want to comment on with regard to future developments?
Right. So we've started 3 years ago, and our plan was very clear. We wanted first to bring our product and then to reach out to community, and not other way around like many other companies do. So I've self-funded in the beginning Somnium. So we brought the alpha version of Somnium to the light. We showed it on a few conferences, and then, after collecting the feedback, refining it again, we launched on Steam, and we had amazing feedback on Steam, and we started to kind of gain the community, and that's where our core community kind of emerged from. And the plan was to collect the feedback from that community, to also reach out to community and raise some money. So we raised that and those crowdfundings. Then we raised also from the VC. So in total, we raised $1 million. And then we used that money to kind of to bring the real vision to the reality. So the Somnium 2.0, as we call it. And right now, actually, as we speak, we're rolling out feature after feature, and we're preparing to roll out the whole Somnium 2.0 in October, November. So all the mobile versions, the complete rebuilt VR version, the PC client, the builder, the other things. So right now we're in a moment where a lot of things are happening, and all things which were working for a year and more are actually coming to life, and it's very exciting and a little bit stressful for us, but we believe that we can handle it pretty well.
Well, congratulations for the Somnium 2.0, sincerely, because I was reading through some of your some of the feedback from some of the participants in the ecosystem, and some of them have said, some constructive feedback to improve, and you've listened to that, and you've just simply enhanced all of the different features and functionalities and core assets, I suppose, of the ecosystem through the 2.0. And is it fair to say that's just also the next iteration, and that there's potential for continual tweaks and developments in the future?
Absolutely. It's a must. It's a must.
Okay. Now, the team, I did want to ask you that, Artur. For open access to the team, I couldn't quite find all the information, but do you feel like you have a team that has the skill sets to do this? And are they a world-class team to lead out VR particularly?
Absolutely. So we, and on the terms of the management, we have a very qualified team from the economical perspective, also with the technical background. I have myself, partially technical background, and we have a team which which can lead and make sure that the operations of the company are top notch, and that's very important for stability of the company. Also being transparent. So we're all on LinkedIn. Everything can read about us. There's a lot of interviews with me and with some the team members. In terms of development, we have already more than 12 developers working in VR, and VR is a very new medium, right? It's 5 years old, 6 years old medium, and we have a lot of young and talented people who are learning and improving right as the company grows, and learning new techniques. So there are some things inside Somnium, even in that world, which you will never see in any other world, VR world ever, because we also are not afraid to kind of break things and then iterate quickly. So we're bringing new innovation there. So in terms of the team, we are very well positioned, and even on the blockchain side. So we partnered with OpenSea and with Loom, and they gave us a lot of kind of advice in the beginning, but the programming skills and all the the creations of the token, everything we kept in house, and our team has learned tremendously fast, and now we have kind of very leading class people knowing the blockchain stuff, the Ethereum, how to make this and that token happen, how to incorporate that into different streams inside our clients. So we're actually making something which nobody did until so far. There is no VR world which incorporates blockchain the way we incorporate it. I'm very confident about our guys.
Wow. And it's great to hear also that you backmapped. You didn't just jump out and try and raise money and then build from there, but you took your time to make sure that there is an ecosystem, or there is a potential for that to build on a platform that's real. So once again, congratulations for all the work you put in for the years previous to now, as you start to really showcase what you can do with construction beyond the ILO. Now, with regard to essentially the ILO, I want to just clarify a bit more about the land parcels. So say, for example, between the 6th and the 13th of October, I want to participate. What options do I have?
It's a very easy process, especially for those who are familiar with blockchain. So if you have MetaMask, for example, you can just directly go to OpenSea, for example, OpenSea.io, just search for Somnium Space, and then you will see all the listings of all the land parcels and some other surprise items you'll be able to find in that auction. So you will be able to see and then choose. And once you go to one particular parcel, you just click on the view on Somnium map. It will open the map, and you will see where the parcel is and where's the location, what's the size. Or on the other hand, you can go to our website and then click the button, join the auction. Then map will open. You will see all the parcels. You will see which is taken, which is not, and then you can just click bid on OpenSea, and just go there and place your bid and hope that your bid is the highest and the best bid, and that you'll win it on the 13th of exactly on the 13th of October. I mean, even our team, we have a rule in team from the day one where we said no one will get any free land from the
I did want to ask you that. So that's impressive.
Ever.
Wow. So that none of the team
no one owns free land. We had to actually go and buy some parcels on the Indiegogo ourselves.
Wow.
Because we wanted to own, and unfortunately we didn't buy enough because kind of like
well,
it's yeah. So now we'll be also placing some bids on the auction. I'm absolutely open about that because I have my dreams about what I want to build inside Somnium.
I like that you do.
And unfortunately I don't have enough parcels for that, so I'll be bidding some part. I will not tell you which ones, but I'll be bidding on some parcels, right? To be able to actually realize my dreams as well. So
I can just imagine you sitting at home pondering about the constructions of the things that you wanted to build for yourself on that land that you've so wanted for so long. Wow, it's just amazing to honestly that knowing that the team didn't have what is akin to a pre-mine, if we use old speak, with regard to having pre-access to the land. That's really amazing because you could have set that up if you wanted to, and you are trying to be as equitable and as fair as possible in doing that. So once again, that is
very transparent.
It's very transparent and also very fair when it comes to the true ethos that many of us believe in when we came to the blockchain and got engaged with cryptocurrency.
Exactly.
Now, with regard to the things that you've been doing, I read into some of the things that you can do, concerts, media nights, planetarium, as we mentioned. But I wanted to ask, is it kid-friendly? Is the environment, for those who want to also perhaps buy land for others or allow their children to participate, what's the rules, with regard to engagement?
The easy answer it is we actually have our community members bring their kids, and I actually met some of their kids inside VR for several times. Like I was seeing the nickname which I knew is our member, and I said, "Hey, hi, hello," and I just heard the kid name, kid voice coming to me. It's like, "Oh, okay, you're a son of Heyman." So we have community managers who are making sure that our environment stays healthy and there is no trolls and stuff. But the most important part is we almost never had problems with trolls and people, because what I truly believe in is that starting from the founder, what you are, you attract kind of same-minded people, and that's why I'm almost not worried about some crazy speculators buying out the land and doing nothing. Just because we attract creators, I'm the creator myself, and our users are creators, and they're very decent people, great people. I've made a lot of friends inside VR, so I believe that good attracts good. And the bad will be just filtered out very quickly. So right now it's a very safe environment for kids. We are implementing tools to make it even more safe, like karma system for every player.
Oh, right. That's good.
I say it like a jail even. We'll have a virtual jail. More on that later. But so those things we're implementing to make sure that you can stay safe, and even privacy settings. For example, on your own land, you can choose whether you can, you want to have only your friends on your land with you, allow them to come to your land, or no one, or everyone. So it's up to you to just
so it's like the real world,
and then people will be able to enter. Yes, exactly. I mean,
so you have such a lot of. It has so much autonomy and so much choice, and you basically giving them more and more tools as you build this out. And to be honest, given that you are pro children in that sense, that's also another feature for another cohort of people who want to engage in that respect, because there's no question that we're moving more into that virtual realm. And especially if people are dispersed throughout the world, this is a way they can come together through the virtual system when otherwise they may not have. So very powerful social tool. With regard to the multiplayer, I wanted to talk to you about that because you mentioned to me in previous discussions that there hasn't been that technology available in the past where people couldn't easily interact together in the environment collaboratively. It was often in isolation in the past. So how powerful is this, and how difficult has it been to allow people to engage in real time or in real virtual time together as they start to interact? through VR?
I mean, of course, there were some examples of interactability in real time, like Second Life, for example. But again, when it comes to VR, combining persistence, so everyone at the same place all the time, and interoperability, so you can talk to other people and you can do things and you can watch TV. That is something which definitely brings the revolutionary use case, and we will see more and more of that. And Somnium, as Somnium grows, we'll see people just collaborating on any topic, whatever that be, education, office meetings, and just having fun, and I don't know, whatever you can imagine. So how difficult it is always difficult to do something which has never been done before, or a version of something which has never been done. So we have to iterate and create our own server and imagine and try things and then break things and then do step by step. But we are at the moment right now, we are confident that we can hold quite a substantial amount of people at the same time in the world, and then we are expanding on that feature next year, and we are well positioned to do so, and we would definitely hope that we will be able to.
Wow, it's very exciting. Now, with regard to the regulation side, you being in Europe, very progressive region, very supportive of blockchain. But when we talk about the likes of, for example, the corporate coins of Libra, if we look at government initiatives, we see a lot of discussions now about digital currencies, blockchain-based digital currencies coming to the fore, almost like transitioning fiat into the blockchain. Does it concern you at all that because you're potentially going to be a very strong currency in the future, albeit in that virtual world, that you're going to have the top-down powers challenge you and say, well, look, you actually do have a full and robust and replete currency. Is it going to be an issue, do you think, because of the backlash we've seen for something like Libra, for example?
I mean, the backlash, Libra is a very specific example, but let's say backlash against like Bitcoin and Ethereum, like someone says, oh, we want to regulate. They just don't understand that it's almost impossible to, once it's out and you cannot control it. But in terms of regulations, we are, of course, we have a team of, lawyers working for us, and we are consulting, and we'll try to stay ahead of the curve and always comply with all the rules and all the legal requirements. That's very important for us. And we are an official company. We're an LTD UK company. So, it's a very transparent company. You can see all the information about us and about founders. Again, that's kind of the foundation of what we do. We are always transparent and open, and we'll try to stay ahead of the curve and do whatever we can to keep keep the governments, or kind of keep the external forces out and not influence the life inside our world. But again, we'll have to comply with the laws if that is required, and we'll definitely find a solution at any time if for our players to continue building their dreams. That's our goal number one.
So exciting. Now, just to finish off, obviously there's been so much involved, and I've been trying to stretch this out, trying to get every piece of information from you today, Artur. But just finally, I mean, if I wanted to engage with this now, can you just give me some information on what essentially I would need in terms of hardware? I mean, you mentioned before the costs, but it relates a lot to the partners that you've also forged as well.
Yes. So either you can buy, or if you have a gaming computer, you can easily buy a headset and then virtual reality headset and enter the world and kind of enjoy the whole world. And if you don't, we just wait a month and then we will release a version for a completely untethered version of headset with zero cables, Oculus Quest and Oculus Go, and you'll be able to pay $350 for the headset, and then they have full experience with all the controllers untethered without PC, and you just enjoy your world. Wow!
And will you have links on your website for those kinds of hardware options if someone wanted, if they, for example, wanted to click on a link and get information on where they can make those purchases?
We don't have it right now, but that's a very good idea. We actually will implement something like that, and we'll actually try to have a web page part where we educate people how they can buy a VR headset and where they should go and do it. That actually, thanks a lot. That's a good idea.
No worries. Sure. And just finally, with regard to the partners of today and tomorrow, just names like VRBA, Sony, huge name there. We mentioned Loom and OpenSea, but then there's Pumax and others as well. Are you excited about these kinds of partnerships and the partnerships we don't know? I mean, you as the founder, you certainly know more of what's coming.
Yes, and it is. I am, and the reason for that is we always, when we form a partnership, it's always about real use case and not about the partnership itself. So Sony, for example, we're trying to, let people scan themselves with a mobile phone and then directly drop that scan inside Somnium, so that you can look actually as you look in real life, but without like going through all the hassle of cameras and going somewhere and paying hundreds of euros. We can do it at home. Pimax, they are pioneers in highest ever resolution headsets, like 4K, 8K headsets, and they did an amazing job. So they have a physical or a virtual physical store inside Somnium Space already, which you visit today and look at the headset by yourself, and you watch some reviews, maybe meet some people there. Mm-hmm. And then there's many more coming. So our goal is kind of to make, we always say we make virtual a reality. And in a sense of, for example, haptic suits. So whenever someone touches you in Somnium, you'll be able to feel it if you wear that suit of that company, which we are going to announce soon. Now, other things like, virtual art and blockchain art. So there will be, a website or a company which allows people to sell art. So we'll incorporate that art and we'll allow people to sell and experience that art in Somnium Space. So all those bits and pieces will make actually you feel more realistic inside that world. So this holy grail of that vast world, that's what we are hoping to build, and that's why we make those partnerships. You're
trying to create the all sensory experience piece by piece as you build towards what is a very exciting VR future.
Yes.
I wanted to read you 2 reviews before we go, just showcasing the power of this. One person wrote in your reviews, "I don't know where to start. This game is just amazing." And one person wrote, "The graphics are better than Second Life." So we're getting this kind of feedback already in this very nascent time. That's all very
and this
clearly,
is the version 1. This is the version 1.
Right,
feedback.
And that's why I was impressed, because you've already working on version 2, and there's years to go in this. And as you build, you literally haven't even got a lot of construction from people yet. So the world is the virtual world is your oyster. It's amazing what you've done so far. I don't normally speak so bullishly about projects, but I just can't help it. This one does really capture my attention. It's piqued my interest, and NFTs really showcase the beauty of blockchain, and you are doing a currency with that has real value potentially, because you're also utilizing the power of decentralized systems and decentralized money. So I wish you all the very best, Artur. I can't really articulate it more clearly, and I'd love the privilege of breaking this down into pieces in the future so we can continue to inform the public. This has been a long interview. We may not get a lot of follow interest in this because it's been so long, but what matters is the conversation starts somewhere, and you are literally changing the game when it comes to blockchain gaming in the VR world.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It was an honor to be here, and of course for all those who stayed all that time and listened to us till the end. I don't know, maybe tweet me and then I'll shake your hand and give you some bonus inside the virtual world, just for actually walking and listening through all that time until this moment. So yeah, thanks a lot for having us.
Anytime. And as Artur has explained, they do have their Discord, they have Medium, they have Twitter, they have Telegram. There's a vast opportunity for you to engage in their social media. Don't hesitate, because they don't bite. They're all there to help you learn more about their space. And again, we are all about trying to showcase real use cases for the blockchain, and this is really something that people should be looking at if they want to understand how to apply blockchain in a useful and exciting and fun way. So congratulations, Artur, for everything you've built so far, and I can't wait to see it unfold further.
Thank you very much, and we'll do our best to make that a reality.
A virtual one. See you, mate.
See you.